Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Chila Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya restores said to his divine grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvajakacharya restores said to his divine grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, everybody. Today we are continuing our reading on the Gancharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. Today is continuing the Nectarian Canto of Canto 7, The Science of God. Chapter 10, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. And today is text 40. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yata yata Bhagavato Bhaktyam Paramaya Bheda Nirpashchadyadaya Satmayam Harestas Chintaya Yayo. Yata yata Bhagavato Bhaktya Paramaya Bheda Nirpashchadyadaya Satmayam Harestas Chintaya Yayo. Yata yata Bhagavato Bhaktya Paramaya Bheda Nirpashchadyadaya Satmayam Harestas Chintaya Yayo. Would anybody like to chant the verse today?
Yata yata Bhagavato Bhaktya Paramaya Vida Nirpash Yadaya Samyam Harish Touch Chintaya Yayo.
Thank you. Anyone else like to chat?
Yata yata Bhagavato Bhaktya Paramaya Vidya Ida Nirpaschaya Daya Satmyam Haristakshintaya Yahu.
Thank you much. Synonyms: Yata yata, just as. Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktya, by devotional service. Paramaya, supreme. Abhida, incessantly thinking of such activities. Nirpa, kings. Chadiya Adhaya, Shishupal, Dantavakra, and others. Satmayam, the supreme, the same form. Harer, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tachintaya, by constantly thinking of Him. Yuya, returned home, back to Godhead. Translation. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to His. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. Although Shishupal, Dantavakra, and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Purport. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, in connection with Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Lord Chaitanya's instructions to Sanatana Goswami. It is explained that a devotee should externally execute his routine devotional service in a regular way, but should always inwardly think of a particular mellow in which he is attracted to the service of the Lord. This constant thought of the Lord makes the devotee eligible to return home back to Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Chakta deham purna janmam naitimam eti. After giving up his body, a devotee does not again receive a material body, but goes back to Godhead and receives a spiritual body, resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates, whose activities he followed. However, the devotee likes to serve the Lord. He may constantly think of the Lord's associates, the cowherd boys, the gopis, the Lord's father and mother, his servants, and the trees, land, animals, plants, and water in the Lord's abode. Because of constantly thinking of these features, one acquires a transcendental position. Kings like Shishupal, Dantavakra, Kamsa, Pondraka, Narakasura, and Shalva were all similarly delivered. This is confirmed by Madhavacharya. Pondrake Narakachaiva Shalva Kamse Charukmini Avishatas tu Hare Bhaktas Tad Bhaktya Harim appear. Pondraka, Narakasura, Shalva, and Kamsa were all inimical towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but because all these kings constantly thought of him, they achieved the same liberation, Sarupya Mukti. The Jnana Bhakta, the devotee who follows the path of Jnana, also attains the same destination. If even the enemies of the Lord achieve salvation by constantly thinking about the Lord, what is to be said of the pure devotees who always engage in the Lord's service and who think of nothing but the Lord in every activity? Jai. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuramitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadadmayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shiyuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sargajatam Saguna Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saguna Lalitam Shri Vishvakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tatta Kancha Nagaurangi Radhe Vrindavan Ishvari Vrishabhanu Nasuta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevata Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation again. By devotional service, pure devotees who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to his. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. Although Shishupal, Dantavakra, and other kings thought of Krishna as an enemy, they also achieved the same result. Jai. Jai, Jai, Jai. So, this is a very nice purport. It's one of my favorite verses in Bhagavatam, because my spiritual master, Holiness Devamini Swami, has given a class on this verse, and that class is one of my favorite classes of his, so therefore I also like the verse. So a lot of my class today will just be from his class that he gives on this verse. So we're hearing a lot about absorption into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That by incessantly thinking of the Supreme Lord. I wonder what Srila Prabhupada uses for the word incessantly. Devotional, so by abidha, incessantly thinking of such activities. Then those persons who incessantly think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead receive bodies similar to his. This is known as Sarupya Mukti. And then in the purport he's saying, Srila Prabhupada is saying that after giving up this body, a devotee does not again receive another material body, but goes back to Godhead and receives a spiritual body, resembling those of the Lord's eternal associates, whose activities he followed. So this is like the sadhana siddhi, the eternal position in the spiritual world of the devotee, which of course is a highly elevated position to get to. It's not something that just is like a whimsical thing. But anyways, so absorption. So bhakti has the incredible ability to take the extraordinary power of the mind, which really it is quite an extraordinary power, and engage it at Krishna's lotus feet. And also material existence has the ability to take the extraordinary power of the mind, but it wraps it up in the cycle of birth and death and gets completely absorbed in material wealth, gain, and fulfillment, which causes us to stay trapped in the material existence, in the material world. So really it's an issue of absorption, of what we choose to be absorbed in. Like we're going to be absorbed in something, so what is it going to be? It's like we have to go one way or the other. Like Srila Prabhupada gives that famous class where he says it's like light and dark. Like if you're facing the light, then you're not in the darkness. But if you're facing the darkness, then immediately you're not in the light. So yeah, we have to choose one way or the other. What are we going to be absorbed in? And it's like the beach, like, or the lakes. Like I was visiting my grandparents recently, and they had this nice lake house. They have this nice house, like really beautiful garden, and it's right on this like lake. It's a man-made lake, and it's right next to a golf course. So they pump water into the lake at some point, like maybe 3 times a year, and the lake fills up heaps, and it like floods, like at least for 5 meters, it like floods up, and then sometimes they suck all the water out, and then it goes down again. So it's like the rocks and stuff that are on the shore. Sometimes they're out of the water, but sometimes they're fully submerged. So it's like the soul, sometimes we're covered by the material energy, but sometimes we're not. Even though the soul is pure by nature, sometimes we're covered by the illusionary energy. And our identity becomes covered, even though that's not who we are. Like Prema Sankirtan the other day at Bhubrat Prabhu's 4th of July party, she was preaching to Nadia and Nitai, and she was telling Nitai, yeah, the body, the soul is like your body. That's like who you are. The subtle body is like your underwear, and the gross body is like your clothes. So it's just coverings. And we were just laughing because like that's such a funny way of explaining it. But she's like, whatever works, whatever analogy you need. That's, it works. So yeah, we can be covered by this illusionary energy. Like, you have your body, your garments, then you have your clothes, and then maybe you're in a dark room too, to make everything more covering. So it's a abominable experience being trapped in the illusionary energy and not being able to find a way out. But at the same time, there's something about the material existence, material world that makes us feel very comfortable. Like this is a place of my enjoyment. And although we're like a fish out of water and we can't breathe properly and we're not functioning properly, and this isn't real enjoyment at all, something about the situation makes us feel like, no, this is okay. The amazing thing about material existence is that no matter what body we take, we somehow feel at home in that body. And this homely feeling is actually our enemy, this feeling of comfort. Like there's this pastime with Indra, and he got cursed to take birth as a pig. So he did. He, left his heavenly kingdom with all this enjoyment and all this opulence, and he took the body of a pig. And he was like a papa pig, and he had his little pig wife, and he had his little piglets, and he was enjoying that position, although like thinking about it is like, oh my god, a pig body, like gross. You literally eat stool and garbage all day, and you're rolling in, like you eat it, you roll in it, you pass it, you roll in it, you eat it. It's just like there's no distinction. And but when Brahma came down and was like, okay, your time's up, Indra, like, let's go back, we need you in the heavenly planets. Indra was like, no, I'm good, I'm comfortable here, you know, I've got my family, I've got my piglets, they feed me every day, you know, this is a comfortable place, it's safe. And like Rama's like, what? You're the king of like heaven. You have so much opulence waiting for you in this, like, in your abode, but you want to stay here as a pig. So this is a really nice like pastime that helps illustrate like it's crazy. Like the whole idea is crazy, but we can get so comfortable in the situation that we forget our actual position. Like I was thinking about that recently because I'm having, you know, there's some, you know, decisions I'm trying to make, like big decisions I'm trying to make. And I was thinking, oh, really, like the main thing that's preventing me from making these decisions is that I'm just comfortable, you know, like I got my comfortable situation, you know, I'm not at max comfort, like to be real, I could be more comfortable, but you know, I'm pretty good. I'm at a pretty good level of comfort. And I was like, oh, I can see that I'm like stuck in this comfortable level and I can't make this decision properly because I'm like, oh, but I don't want to give up this comfort for maybe not being able to have the same comfort in a different situation. So it's really interesting how it works like that. And this even in our bhakti, this level of like being comfortable in your bhakti, it's actually the enemy because then you're just treading water. You're not actually like taking those steps to go further in your bhakti that might be necessary. It might be uncomfortable, but that's what we need to like get further attachment to Krishna. So yeah, so what is actually wrong with feeling comfortable in this world? And His Holiness Devamita Swami, His Holiness Devamita Swami was describing that this feeling of comfort is as soon as we start to feel like, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable, then we start to see Krishna, see God as our order supplier. Krishna, give me a comfortable situation. Okay, Krishna, you know, now I've got this. I really need a new car, Krishna. Like, how can I get that? Please, Krishna, you know, if you so desire, please grant me this new vehicle. So we can start to see Krishna in that way, like, okay, now I want this, now I want that. Try to increase our opulence and have this consumer mentality. And we have this body and we want comfort in the material world. So naturally, like the two, you know, if you want comfort and we have this body, they work together. It's like Hiranyakashipu, you know, he had nice soft bed, cushions, and like this material existence, demoniac mentality. It's just like a whole package. So let's see, where was I in my notes? So what happens is we start to pollute religion to achieve those goals of being comfortable. And that's why so many wars are fought, just over like people who claim to be religious. They're fighting these huge battles because they're demanding, one side is demanding, my desires are not satisfied and it's your fault. Because of your skin color, because of your race, because of your religion, this is your fault. And I'm going to come and kill all of you so that I can fulfill my desires of having more space, of having more land, of whatever, having your wealth, having your oil. It doesn't matter. So I can fulfill my desires. So this is polluting we pollute religion, we fight, we get in so many arguments, so many wars just because we want to be comfortable. And this is a huge problem. And it's actually very common. Srila Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavad Gita that the exchange of devotional service for material comforts is actually quite a common affair. And yeah, and we're so conditioned that we want to trade with Krishna, like, you know, trade something. Like if you've ever experienced a really intense phase of bhakti, like where you're just doing so much devotional service and it's like it can feel like very intense and draining. Like if you're managing some program and then there's just like lots of spontaneous things that pop up and you're running back and forth and you're trying to do everything and you have to because there's no one else to do it and it can be very exhausting. It's easy to think, okay, now Krishna, like I've done my part, so I deserve a comfortable material situation. Now I want to go on a holiday somewhere and relax because I've done so much service for you. So this is like that sort of borrow and trade mentality, like now that I've done all this, Krishna, surely you're going to give me a nice situation, right? So this is actually not the right mentality. It's a consumer mentality, like I buy, you give me. But that's not actually what devotional service is about. Causeless and unmotivated devotional service. That's what we actually want to do. And the side point is that if you do have an opportunity to do this really intense service for Krishna, it's actually very fortunate because not everybody has an opportunity to do intense service. And of course, intense service is different according to one's capacity. Someone can be doing like what seems like an unrealistic amount of service, but for them, it's actually not that much. Whereas another person, you can look at from an external point of view and you're like, oh, you're really not doing that much service. But for them, it's like max capacity. But regardless, when we have those intense service opportunities where we really get to fully surrender to Krishna, it's actually a very fortunate time. Because it's helping us train us for constantly thinking of Krishna. And that's what bhakti is trying to do. Bhakti is training us for constant immersion in Krishna without breaks. And the breaks are caused mostly by material desires, which create impotence, which create, gaps in the consistency of our devotional service. Sometimes also like health reasons, we just don't have the physical stamina to be able to serve continuously. We need a break. But in that break, you can also be mentally, like you can take a break from your services and have a recharge where you read and chant. And that way you're actually continuing the flow of consistent immersion in Krishna. So there's not a break there, but the break of a material desire is like, you're serving and then you stop and you're like, all right, Krishna, like, what are you going to do for me? That causes a gap. So how do we incessantly think of Krishna? It seems so hard, right? Like, I can't constantly think of Krishna. Like, how do I do that? Sure, I've got my 16 rounds I do in the morning and, I read during the day. So that's like, together, that's probably like 4 hours, maybe 3 hours if I'm having a good day. Maybe listen to a few lectures. Let's top that up to like 5 hours of the day. I'm actually fully thinking of Krishna. That's to say that my 16 rounds are like actually thinking of Krishna the whole time. Like when I was visiting my mom recently and she was like, so you must be really good at this whole chanting thing. You've been doing it for so many years. And I was like, I think I got worse at it actually since the time's been progressing. I think I've actually gotten worse at my chanting. I was like, sometimes it's like hard to chant one round without not thinking of something else. Even a few beads I go by and I'm like, wait, focus. What are you doing? You're chanting Hare Krishna. And I was trying to tell that to her, but she was just like, but you've been doing it for so long. And I was like, okay, Mom, yeah, sure. Let's just say that I'm good at it just for you being satisfied, even though that's not the case. So, how do we incessantly think of Krishna? Well, the question is, how do we incessantly think of material life? Like, that's easy, right? Because there's so many things you can think of. I can think of my body. I can think of others' bodies. I can think of, what I'm going to do tomorrow, what I'm going to do next week, where I'm going to go on a holiday, what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to cook. Just trying to survive. Like, just how am I going to get through? How are we going to pay all these bills? Like, there's so many things to think about. So when we put it that way, then it's like, okay, well, there's also so many things to think about in a Krishna conscious setting. And a really nice example is Prahlad Maharaj, because he's like the exemplar of smaranam, of always remembering Krishna. And he was in like hellish situations. Like the things he had to go through would make any ordinary person like drop their bhakti completely and even blame Krishna for like putting them in that situations. Like, Krishna, what is this? You know, I'm your devotee, and like, you know, this is what you're gonna do to me. I've been trying to serve you, and now this is the punishment I get. So yeah, but Prahlad Maharaj was able to constantly remember Krishna. He was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, so much so that even when his father was torturing him and trying to hurt him and trying to kill him, he wasn't even thinking really that like, my father's trying to kill me. He was thinking, my father must be playing with me. And he was totally absorbed. He could think like that because he was totally absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, thoughts of the Supreme Lord. So yeah, this is because he was in that mentality. Although he was in a really tough material situation, he was completely peaceful. Of course, later, when Hiranyakashipu was killed by Nrsingadev, Prahlad Maharaj did appeal to Lord Nrsingadev, my father has done greatly sinful activities. Please, can you, if you're, and when Nrsingadev asked for him to give him a benediction, Prahlad Maharaj said, please, can you, liberate my father, even though he has already been liberated just because he touched your lap. Can you please, like, I want to hear you say it, because when you say it, then it's legit. So like this, Prahlad Maharaj, he's a perfect devotee. So this point of absorption, what is the mind absorbed in? And how does it help us? We know in Bhagavad Gita that it said the mind is more ferocious than the wind, and it can never be tamed, or it's more ferocious than the wind, and it's extremely hard to tame it. And I remember at one point in time, I don't know why this memory is in my mind still, but I was on book distribution in Wellington, where was the town called? New Plymouth? No, Masterton, which is like, yeah, over the mountains, a small town. And it was raining. I was standing underneath like a overhang thing, and I was in this argument with this Christian, and this Christian man was trying to tell me that the mind was easy to control, and it was simple. You just had to fix it on God, but you could only do it through Jesus Christ. And I was telling him, no, Bhagavad Gita says the mind is really difficult to control. It's harder to control than controlling the wind. And we were having this argument. I was like, but it can be done through the power of devotional service. I think he was actually telling me the mind can't be controlled. I think that was the argument, that it's impossible to control the mind. And I was telling him, no, it is possible, but you need to absorb it constantly in thinking of Krishna. Anyways, that's one of the few Sankirtan memories I have. But so it's true, we have this very powerful mind, and it can either get us into trouble, but if we train it, it can actually take us back to the spiritual world. Like it's His Holiness Jagannatha Swami says, our mind can take us back to Godhead when we engage it in bhakti, but material existence takes our mind and shreds it. And yeah, if you've ever like just grated cheese, it's just like grating the mind. It just like makes it completely useless. So we have to admit that in our sojourn through material existence, this sort of idea of intensity and absorption, it's actually not like a stranger, like it's not like a strange thought, like how am I going to be intense and absorbed in my bhakti? Because we do this in the material world too, like in our material existence, in our material lives that we have had or are having, or had before we came in contact with the devotees. This idea of like being really intense about something. And everybody has it. Like it's, sometimes you like to think like, oh, I'm not an intense person. I'm really mellow and chill. But we all have things that we get really intense about. It's just a matter of finding out what it is. Like I get really intense about cooking and nutrition. It's like soup. I can just I can talk endlessly about nutrition and cooking. In the material, when I was, living my material life where I wasn't aware of Krishna's presence, I was super into sports. Like I was playing basketball, I played volleyball, I played tennis, I was climbing, I skied, all sorts of stuff. I was just like really into physical activity. Not that I was fit, which is weird. I don't know how that really worked out. But anyways, so we have things we like to get intense about, but we can actually take those things that we get intense about in the material setting and just transfer it over to Krishna and then use that in same energy. And my spiritual master, remember, he gave me the instruction, and he also says this in lectures, where whatever you were doing in the material world, whatever things you were intense about, you should take that same energy and give it to Krishna, at least the same energy. Of course, Krishna deserves much more, but you should at least take the same energy and give it to Krishna. If not, you should double it. That's actually the best standard. Take that in same energy and double it and give it to Krishna. So I think about that, how much energy I put into like, even when I was like 18, 19, I was super into like partying and like, trying to find the best source of enjoyment. And I would like do all sorts of crazy stuff to try and achieve like the highest level of like what I thought was enjoyment. And I put a lot of energy into it. And I'm thinking about that now. I was like, wow, if I just put that much energy into my japa, which is actually the highest level of enjoyment, like, I'd probably be much more advanced than I am now. So it's really important. And my spiritual master says, if you don't do that, then it's like cheating, Then you just gave so much to the material energy, but you're not giving that much to Krishna. So, yeah, we have to transfer that energy into bhakti. And because our mind has to be absorbed in something, and we have to get intense about something in our Krishna consciousness, because that intensity will help us fix our mind on Krishna. Like I really like cooking for like lots of people, like, 100 people, 200 people. Like those sorts of caterings are like really, my mind gets super absorbed in it. I plan everything out. I like, organize everything like down to the 30-minute mark, like everything goes according to that. And it's like super engaging for my mind. And the whole time I'm like planning like, okay, how can I do this prep so it's so nice? And how can I do this for it's so nice? Or when I was in New Zealand, I used to make lots of cakes, like wedding cakes and cakes for different sort of programs. And I always would, the same. It would just take so much of my mind to absorb in how I'm going to do this service so nicely, what the cake's going to look like, how I'm going to get the right angle, how am I going to stack it so it doesn't like fall to the side. So it would just take so much of my like energy, like so much energy to be absorbed in this thought, that it would actually, and I would think about it throughout the day, like doing my services, or just, if I had to go to work, I'd go to work, but then I'd be thinking about this service that I'm going to do. And it's nice. It's really absorbing for me. So finding things that we're intense about, we like to get intense about, and then just putting it into Krishna's service, like, dovetailing it somehow. And then it's nice, because then that same intensity that you would be using for the material world, which isn't going to get you anything or give you anything. You're not going to get anything from that. If you put it into Krishna consciousness, then your mind will become focused on it and you'll actually feel blissful. And it's not so stressful. It's transcendental anxiety. It's what my spiritual master calls it. Transcendental anxiety. So yeah, we have to get intense about something. So get intense about bhakti. And so yeah, in this verse, it's talking about how the demons that are mentioned in this verse, Dantavakra, Shashupal, Paumdraka, Narakasura, they achieved liberation because they were always thinking of the Lord. Of course, they were thinking in an inimical way, which Srila Prabhupada recommends we don't do, because it's a lot harder. Like, you have to be such a great demon for Krishna to come down and kill you. And as we've seen in this material world, we've got some pretty great demons. Like, there's some pretty terrible people who are like killing thousands of people, and Krishna has not come down and killed them yet. So to be so demoniac that you're doing things like that, you have to be killed by Krishna. Like, you have to be very, very demoniac. It takes a lot of work to hate Krishna so much that he has to come down and kill you. So better to be a devotee, because it's not as hard, it's a lot easier actually to just chant Hare Krishna and try and focus your mind on Krishna in a friendly way than to be an enemy of Krishna. As we see from so many examples in Bhagavatam. So, but regardless, these demons, they were thinking of the Lord. We know Shishupal from Krishna book was constantly thinking of Krishna from the moment he was born. He was just like, oh, that guy, I hate him. I hate everything about him. Like everything about him I hate. So, yeah, and we know like Rukmini's brother, who also like hates Krishna from the moment. I mean, in general, he hates Krishna. That's why he arranged Rukmini's marriage to Shishupal, because he was like, oh, Krishna, no way. Like, I'm gonna arrange it to Shishupal, who I know hates Krishna, just to like despise him. And then, of course, when Rukmini was taken away by Krishna, Rukmini was so furious, and he chased him down and made a vow he wouldn't return to his home city. He was just like fuming with anger, and then he was humiliated, and that like infused him with even more anger. So yeah, these personalities, they get so intense about hating Krishna. That's their intensity, that they get fully absorbed in that hatred for the Lord, that they actually achieve perfection. So of course we don't want to have intense hate towards Krishna. We want to have intense love towards Krishna. And we can do that through using that intensity, that absorption, and fixing it on different services, fixing it on our chanting. As it says in the purport, if you're constantly thinking about the Lord's associates and different personalities, then when you leave your body, you'll achieve those positions. That's a little advanced for me, to be honest, so I'm just focusing on my services. But yeah, that highest position is there, that achieving that's your eternal position in the spiritual world. And His Holiness Devamrita Swami describes that position isn't something that can be achieved artificially. Like, oh yeah, some devotees will say, I like Jagannath more than these deities, or I like, I'm more of a Nrsimha Bhakta than I am a Krishna Bhakta. And that can be true for devotees who are highly advanced. You'll see that, like, there's so many devotees in our community who have like the deities that they're fixed on, and that's like really glorious. And His Holiness Devamrita Swami says that position, that natural affection for different forms of the Lord, will come automatically, and when it comes, you'll just know it, like in your heart. You'll be like, yeah, that's it. It's not that you have to like take initiation from a certain guru, or go to like 15 24-hour kirtans, and then like by the end of it you'll be like, yep, I got it. It comes with like advancement and gradually, and when Krishna wants it to. So yeah, for those who are on that level, there's that option. And then for those, who are very low in the Krishna conscious platform, like myself, then just getting absorbed in services is also a really great way to engage your mind in always thinking about Krishna, or trying to always think about Krishna. So anyways, that's all I really have to say on this topic. I'm actually not even sure who's on Zoom. Let me see. If anybody has any corrections or comments or anything they'd like to share, I'd really like to hear from you. There's 3, 6, 7, 8 people, so that's everyone can say something for 2 minutes, then we can fill up the rest of the time for class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dasya Prema, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you for the nice class. So I remember one girl came to Gita Nagari as a volunteer, and she was actually came through a preaching program. And she said to me one time, she said, before I was so into protesting, political protest, and it really got me going, got me out of bed every morning, and gave me an enthusiasm for life. And then she's like, but now, now I starting to get into this Krishna thing, and I like it. I'm convinced by it, but I don't I don't like it's the philosophy of Krishna consciousness has gotten me to realize that the political protest stuff, it's not like the highest thing. So actually, she was saying it made me lose my vigor for that, but I haven't been able to find my vigor in Krishna consciousness. So like, what would you say to that person? I guess how could you find vigor?
I say, well, if she liked it protesting before, you can still protest in Krishna consciousness. His Holiness Devamrita Swami says that you can just protest the right things, like protest that you were raised like an animal. You can protest that you were raised that in a family that encourages you to like birth, death, disease, and old age. You can protest these things. Just go on Sankirtan. The whole world is drowning, thinking that they're this body, and that this life is meant for their enjoyment. You can protest that and be like, that's wrong. you're an illusion, actually, and you don't even know about it. Just like so many people have no idea about all like the political protests that are going on. Like I have no idea. I couldn't tell you anything about why you should protest the political parties except for the really obvious things. So you can still protest. There's so much to protest about the mature world. Just protest for the right things and then go on Sankirtan and convince people. You know, if you used to protest on the streets, like, you know, you would put yourself in such austere conditions just to try and prove a point. So you can still do that in Krishna consciousness. That's still there. You can go on Harinam Sankirtan and try and convince people that they're not this body and that they should listen to you because this philosophy is higher than what they know. That's what I would tell somebody like that. If they were so fixed on protesting as what gave them life before, and they're convinced about Krishna consciousness, then I would tell them you can go and try and convince others to go protest on the street, protest material existence. What would you say?
No, that's a nice answer. I'll let her know that if I ever see her again. No, I would say the same thing. Yeah. Probably just less eloquently.
Thank you.
But
would anybody else like to comment or question or correction?
Hare Krishna.
Harinam Sankirtan.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Tarika Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you for a very nice class. I'm giving me lots to think about, and you've inspired lots of Krishna conscious thought, which is what we're talking about, fixing our mind on Krishna. You have given me a bunch of ways to fix my mind on Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam class is for that purpose. We hear Srimad Bhagavatam class every day. It makes it increasingly easier to fix our mind on Krishna. We have lots of subject matter to contemplate. Gradually, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we see the whole world in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam becomes alive, and we just see the eternal truths of Srimad Bhagavatam manifested everywhere around us all the time. Srimad Bhagavatam has so many wonderful effects. It happens gradually and imperceptibly oftentimes, but gradually our consciousness is transformed just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam on a regular basis. It's a wonderful thing. So fixing the mind on Krishna, that's a big issue. We know that we're supposed to fix our mind on Krishna. We know because Krishna says so over and over again. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 8th chapter, text 7, Krishna says, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusmara yudyacha mayarpita manobuddhir mam aivaishyas yasamnishayaha. Um, says, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So the advice is to fix the mind on Krishna, but how to do that? And then in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Man mana bhavamad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru mam evaishyasi yukvaivam atmanam madbharayanaha. That you should engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. So here he's advising not just to always think of him, but he's suggesting various means by which that remembrance can be facilitated. And then later in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in text 65, Krishna says, Man mana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. There's a few hints here. He talks about worshiping him and offering your homage to him. By doing so, you can think of Krishna always, and he addresses Arjuna as his friend. So if we make Krishna our friend, that also is favorable for remembering Krishna, and it means that the quality of our devotional service is improved because devotional service should be rendered favorably. Kamsa and Hiranyakashipu thought of Krishna unfavorably and still were liberated, but better than that, because that's not pure devotional service. Pure devotional service means you render service favorably. Anyabilashita shunyam, jnana karma yanavritam, anukulyena krishnanus, shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. But still, how do we arrive at this condition of being able to always think of Krishna or to render service purely? And the answer to that is actually everything that we do in Krishna consciousness. It's our whole program of Krishna consciousness, everything that Srila Prabhupada gave us. It's the process was directed by Lord Chaitanya to the six Goswamis who studied Shastra scrutinizingly. They wrote books to explain precisely how you can always remember Krishna. And the ultimately the all the rules and regulations, of course, are meant for that purpose. So it's everything that we do and everything that we don't do. Smartavya satatam vishnu or vismartavyo najatu chit sarve vidhi nishedasyor etayor evakinkaraha. That Lord Vishnu should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these two principles. All of the rules and prohibitions are meant for this purpose, to facilitate our constant remembrance of Krishna. But ultimately, in order to be able to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, and to do so favorably, the ultimate objective is Krishna prema, because if we acquire love for Krishna, then we cannot help but always think of Krishna. If you fall in love with someone, even in the material sphere, people may have experience. You become infatuated with someone. You can't stop thinking about them. You think about them all the time, day and night, keeps you up at night. First thing you think of in the morning, you think about them so much it hurts. So it's one can acquire love for Krishna, and then it becomes impossible to forget Krishna, and that's our objective. We want to acquire Krishna bhakti, or Krishna prema, the ultimate Krishna bhakti, and then we will never be able to forget Krishna. But how to arrive at Krishna prema? And so that's the process that the Goswamis have given us. It's all the things that we do, rising early and chanting 16 rounds and minimally, and following the regulative principles. That's very, very important. If you neglect the regulative principles, it will be exceedingly difficult to make any progress at all. You will go backwards instead of forward. But if you follow the regulative principles, it will very greatly facilitate your progress. You'll move forward in big leaps and bounds. It's a very powerful thing. And that's a whole subject matter. We could talk about that for days. But so anyway, all of what we do is how we will move towards Krishna prema. And sometimes Srila Prabhupada says the goal is to go back home, back to Godhead. Sometimes he says the goal is Krishna prema. But either way, if you achieve Krishna prema, you have already gone back home. Lord Chaitanya doesn't pray to go back home. He prays Mama Janmani Janmani Ishware, that birth after birth, he just wants devotional service. Because that's the mentality that you have to have in order to go back home. If you want to go back home, you have to not want to go back home. You have to just want devotional service. And then, and if you can do that perfectly, then you're already back home. So therefore, sometimes Srila Prabhupada will say the goal is Krishna prema. That's the ticket for going back home. Remembering Krishna, it's a challenge sometimes when we have many different duties and responsibilities in our lives, mundane affairs that tend to foster forgetfulness of Krishna. But there are all kinds of things that we can do to facilitate our remembrance. I know some devotees who put sticky notes everywhere. I had one devotee friend. His wife used to put notes in all the pockets of his clothes and everywhere in all of his possessions, with various quotations to remind him of Krishna all throughout the day. He'd stick his hand in his pocket and suddenly discover some note that would remind him somehow or other. There's a million tricks that one can do, but following the practice of sadhana bhakti is the most effective means to gradually purify our consciousness and fix our mind on Krishna. The yogis are trying to think of Krishna, or Lord Vishnu, is the object of meditation. So they're artificially, through meditation and various other practices, trying to fix their mind. Ashtanga yoga, the process of hatha yoga is to create a situation in the body that will facilitate concentrating the mind and make it possible to meditate for long periods of time. It's an elaborate process, but a mechanical, artificial means for fixing the mind on Krishna. But it's extremely difficult and takes a very long time. The Vaishnavas, the devotees, can excel the achievements of the yogis very quickly and easily by the practice of sadhana bhakti. They achieve the same result and more. The yogis only go so far. They will realize Krishna as Brahman or possibly Paramatman, but the devotees go beyond that. They realize Krishna as Bhagavan. And if you realize Krishna as Bhagavan, you will not be able to forget Krishna under any circumstances, because Krishna is so wonderful. You can't help but think of him. First of all, if you see Krishna, you can't forget him. He is so beautiful. He is mind-bogglingly beautiful, like nothing you have ever experienced, ever. If you see, a very beautiful person, you may think of them, but if you see the beauty of Krishna, you cannot get that out of your mind. His beauty is unparalleled. It is far beyond the most beautiful thing imaginable. Krishna is so beautiful, astoundingly, stunningly beautiful, and everything about him is attractive. Everything about him is supremely attractive, and but to a degree that is stunning, that is mind-boggling. Devotees get a little glimpse. Krishna reveals himself in some little way, and devotees fall on the ground unconscious. Um, they just drop into samadhi. Their body collapses on the ground, and their mind is just completely absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Um, Not artificially, but unavoidably, it just happens. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it, because Krishna is just that attractive. He is so extremely attractive. So we want to fill our consciousness with Krishna and gradually acquire a taste. If we have a taste for protesting and having a hard time trying to cultivate a taste for Krishna consciousness, the solution is that you continue with the process of sadhana bhakti. It's already a perfect process. You can't improve upon it. You just keep doing it, and in time, you absolutely will acquire a taste, and you will be jacked up out of control. You'll wake up in the morning with a bang. You'll wake up with a jolt earlier than you intended, because you can't wait to begin another day of devotional service. And you will not be, you won't be able to help thinking of Krishna in one means or another, one way or another. You'll be completely preoccupied with thoughts of devotional service. Devotional service is extremely sweet, very, very wonderful. There's countless different ways you can run a devotional service according to, your particular taste. You can choose, so many different ways to go, and all of them are absolute and wonderful, transcendently delicious. And the more you do them, the tastier it becomes. It becomes more and more and more relishable. Deeply, deeply relishable, extremely satisfying, deeper than the bones, to the core of your being satisfying, super duper, super duper satisfying, and highly addictive. So we just have to stick with the process, and we arrive at that. You become automatically fixed on Krishna, and if you can do that, then everything else, every other problem is immediately solved. Your life is perfect. Uh, Always think of Krishna, never forget Krishna. That's the purpose behind all the rules and regulations, all the prohibitions, all of everything we do is directed towards achieving that. And it works really, really nicely. It works fabulously. You just have to stick with the process. But if you deviate from the process, then you slow the process down significantly. If you deviate from the regulative principles, your progress will be extremely difficult or impossible. You may go backwards instead of forward. Um, it is possible to go backwards. You can do that, especially if you commit offenses. You will go backward instead of forward. So you have to practice with care and attention to the rules and regulations. Don't commit offenses. There's all kinds of offenses. There are nam aparads, offenses to the holy name. There's seva aparad, and there's Vaishnav aparad. All of them are detrimental, but the most serious of them is Vaishnav aparad. Always practice appreciating devotees, render service to them. Always be very respectful, and never offend a Vaishnava, not even in your mind. Don't even think ill of a devotee. Is actually Vaishnava aparad if you fail to sincerely and genuinely feel pleasure and smile when you see a devotee. there may be a particular devotee who, due to some unfortunate set of circumstances, when you see them, the hair stands up on the back of your neck, and you think, "Oh no, very bad." Don't ever let that happen. Somehow or other, you gotta smooth things over and be on good terms with every devotee, whatever it takes. Because if you don't feel joy upon seeing a devotee, then you're committing an offense. It's Vaishnava aparad, and that will devastate your Krishna consciousness. The first thing is you lose your taste for everything in Krishna consciousness. Your taste is withdrawn, and when you lose your taste, then there is nothing to sustain you, and then you fall down. You fall down to sense enjoyment, because without a higher taste, you have no choice. You have to be engaged in activity somehow or other. By dint of the taste of devotional service, you can remain aloof from the material nature. But if you lose that taste, then you fall down. So Shastra says that if you commit Vaishnava aparad, you must fall down. It is sure and certain. Never offend a Vaishnava. Never be an offender of a Vaishnava. Really, really bad. And don't offend the holy names. Um, and and don't commit offense, save aparad also. Be careful in the course of rendering service that you follow the rules and regulations carefully. Do everything nicely, and then you progress very, very rapidly, and enjoy immensely, transcendentally. Everybody wants to enjoy. We are naturally pleasure-seeking. It's the nature of the spirit soul, because we're part and parcel of Krishna, who's the supreme enjoyer. We all want to enjoy, and the best way to enjoy is to render service to Krishna. That is the most enjoyable thing. Everything else is actually draining. There is an illusion of pleasure, but there isn't really pleasure there. For whatever pleasure you think you got, you pay for it dearly. It actually diminishes your enjoyment in the long term, and it will be sinful, and you will actually incur reactions that will cause your suffering. But the way the material nature works is so complex that it's not immediately obvious. You won't see how it's working, but the net result is that whenever you're in forgetfulness of Krishna, you will suffer. And whenever you're in remembrance of Krishna, you will enjoy wonderfully. I've gone on for too long. I'll stop. Thank you again for a nice class. You got me all jacked up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru. Thank you so much for your comments. Those are really sweet. I really liked your points, and that one point you made about when you fall in love with someone, etc., how it's like, but that's what we want to do for Krishna, is just like totally fall in love with Krishna, and then we just naturally won't stop thinking about him. So that was a really nice point, and I liked all the other ones you shared too. Thank you so much for your comments, and thank you everyone for participating and in class by being here and listening. Very grateful for your association. We'll end here. Gantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, and Jakoti Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo. All glories to everyone here. Hare Krishna.